Morning, everybody, and welcome to the meeting, a special meeting of the White Plains City School District Reopening Committee. Thanks so much for everyone making time today to be here. This is an important meeting, and it is predicated on the change in the mask guidelines from the New York State Department of Health, which were released last night at about 8:43 p.m. exactly. And really what the guidelines are doing is they are aligning New York State's mask guidelines with CDC's mask guidelines for outdoor activities, so summer camps and the like. This was all precipitated on Friday related to a letter that was sent from Commissioner Dr. Zucker to CDC, the head of the CDC, Dr. Walensky, where the New York State Department of Health was seeking approval or advice from CDC to change the mask guidelines in schools. CDC wrote back, indicated that they did not support changing the mask guidelines in schools. However, based on their science research and present guidance, they did support changing the mask requirements for outdoor activities. So outdoor activities, recess, play, phys ed, events, and the like. Masks, the language now reads in the modification to the guidelines, masks are strongly encouraged, but not required. So what does this do? It sets up a choice for people. We know now that we're achieving a critical mass of vaccination in the state of New York. However, we also know that children from birth to age 12 or 11 are not yet able to receive vaccination, but we are doing a pretty good job in terms of folks getting vaccinated, and we've been seeing the results of that over the last couple of months with the numbers of active COVID-19 cases in the state of New York descending to very, very low levels, which is fantastic. We also know, based on the research that's been gleaned over the last 14, 15 months, that based on the evidence in the research studies as promulgated by CDC, the chance of spread of COVID-19 outdoors is far, far below the chance of spread of COVID-19 indoors. Additionally, since we discussed back in the fall in the summer of 2020 about COVID-19, we also know it doesn't do well, it doesn't on surfaces in terms of spreading on surfaces and the like. We also know that it doesn't do well in sunlight and in warmer weather. So there are a lot of factors here that, me not being a medical doctor, but reading the research from CDC that go into the recommendations for masks being strongly encouraged, but not being required. Again, it's a choice. And parents and guardians and students and adults under the modification to the guidelines would have the choice as to whether or not they wish to wear a facial covering when they are outdoors. So the main focus of today's conversation, and we will have a conversation, and then I will move us to the consensus poll that we used last time we met for the American Rescue Plan funding. Liza, you muted me? We'll use that poll, just one question. It'll ask if you can support the modification to the guidelines and the change to the White Plains City School District's reopening plan. You can fully support it. You can live with it. You can support it and have questions, or you can't support it at all. If you were to select, I can support it, but I have questions, or I can't support it at all, please be prepared to share with the committee what your concerns are. So before we move into the poll, which of course is anonymous, I should have said that, I'd like to open it up to the committee for questions. I'll do my best to answer the questions. I studied the CDC guidance last night. Of course, I studied the New York State Department of Health guidelines, and I also shared that with you in this morning's meeting invitation. It's pretty straightforward, but if I don't know the answer to a question, I will try to get it for you or direct you to where where you can find it. What I am asking is that we try to separate our feelings, our personal feelings about masks with the decision that I'm asking you to make. I am recommending that we make the modification in accordance with the New York State Department of Health's guidelines, as we have followed the New York State Department of Health's guidelines all throughout the pandemic. Again, I'm not a medical doctor, and I said it right from the get-go. I was going to rely, and we were going to rely on the guidelines from the medical doctors in the departments of health. So try to separate how I feel about masks. Maybe I love them and I want to wear them all the time, from what the decision is this morning. I know it's hard, but I just wanted to put that out there so that everybody's cognizant of it. If you have a particular bias, try and hold it in abeyance as you're making this decision for the entire White Plains City School District. Okay, questions, and Mrs. Lyons has her hand up first.
Hi there. So I have a couple of questions just about implementation. So I know that particularly at the elementary level, lost masks could potentially become an issue. So will we have enough disposable masks on hand for kids who do lose them? And I also have a follow-up to that question.
Yes.
Okay, so my follow-up to that question is, I know that families are going to have different feelings about whether or not their children are masked. And I can see that being hard to manage for folks who are supervising during those times. So I just wanted to know how we would manage that and if there would be any impact regarding quarantines because of mixed cohorts. So those are two more, but then I'm done.
Great questions. The city school district and all of our colleagues cannot be held accountable to remember whose moms and dads and guardians want them to wear masks. This is going to be a familial decision, and the responsibility has to be with the family. Now, Joe, my kid's 5. I understand that. That's something that the family will need to work out together. And I can tell you, and you all know this from working with 5-year-olds and having 5-year-olds, some of us, they know. And at this stage of the academic year, they're actually 6. So they know. Now, does that mean that they won't take their mask off during recess when it's hot and when they're friends? It doesn't mean that. And they could very well do that. That's something that's going to happen. It's something that happens every day after school. It's something that happens on the basketball courts. You know, we all know that when we see our children, some of them are masked up all the time and others are not. So, you know, from a responsibility standpoint, of course, moms and dads could let us know, hey, I don't want Joe Ricca to wear a mask. He doesn't have to wear a mask during recess. And guess what? Joe might keep his mask on. You know, the reverse. He might say, I want to wear my mask. And the reverse could be true as well. But yes, Kara, to your point, we wouldn't be able to manage who can or who is and who isn't and all of that. And there was a third question in there.
Oh, does it have any impact on quarantines? Because I know that's going to be a question that folks have, like, how would this impact our ability to go to graduation or other events?
Yeah, it potentially could. But of course, there's a potential implication for isolation and quarantine in the everyday classroom setting with masks as well. The contact tracing process for outdoor activities for limited exposure. Recess is limited exposure. And the close contact that children have when they're playing tag or they're going down the slide or they're going to the monkey bars is limited exposure. I would not think, and certainly Maggie will correct me, but I would not think one should expect the threshold to be higher outside than indoors.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Sure thing. Cheryl, and then I see we have another. Okay, Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl.
Good morning, everyone. So I have 2 questions. Do we know what the positivity rate is in Westchester County or White Plains? I know that, you know, at various times the state has touted certain, you know, low levels of positivity in the state where Westchester has been above that level. So I just wanted to get a sense of where we might be more locally. And the second question is, have there been a lot of requests from families about, you know, prior to this, you know, whole confusion from the state? Have there been a lot of requests from families for their children not to wear masks outdoors? So I'm, again, trying to ascertain the temperature of the community in a couple of ways.
Sure. So as of yesterday, I don't have White Plains specific. They don't keep the data that way. But as of yesterday, County Executive Latimer, in terms of sharing the numbers in Westchester County, they're as low as they've been and continue to descend. I forget what the percentage is. It's available on the county's website. There we go. Thanks, James. 0.57%. James, you are the man. Thanks so much. Yeah, so as low as it's been and continuing to decline, thank God. In terms of the temperature of the community, and this is something that I've talked a lot about, you probably heard me talking about it, this weekend. We have folks, just like we've had all year, on all sides of the conversation. And as the school district, we try and respect all sides of the conversation. And so, yes, the answer is yes. We've had moms and dads and guardians requesting that children not have to be masked anywhere at any time. We've had moms and dads express concern that they want children masked all the time. So again, there's, as has been through the entire pandemic, I've coined, I think it's mine, I think I've coined the continuum of concern, where you go everywhere from, again, no such thing as COVID-19 to I'm never leaving my apartment, and everything in between. So with this modification though, Cheryl, to your point, it still provides the family with choice. And I think that's the most important thing. So I want my child to stay masked up, they stay masked up. And that's something that folks could still be able to do. Sure. Go ahead.
F for me?
No. I'm sorry, Miss, your name's jumping out of my head. Oh my God. B, Mrs. B.
Benelli?
Yeah. Lisa.
Benelli.
I remembered B.
That's okay. It's close. It's good. I just wanted to, good morning, everybody. And I just want to clarify, Dr. Ricca, are you, just the time frame you're talking about, are you talking about immediate implementation just for the remainder of the school year? Are you talking about September? What's the time frame? I just want to clarify that one point.
Sure,
and
that's a great question.
And then the second question I have is, does the distance rule still apply when, for example, let's say they have gym outside and they're not in masks? Is there still a distance rule? Because I didn't see anything from the CDC on that.
So thanks, great question. So let me start with the first one. We're talking about, with regard to this particular modification to the schools reopening, the district's reopening plan, this would be through the end of the academic year. However, the modifications will change for all activities during summer school. And that's something that, is just going to happen. In terms of September, I would expect, based on the governor's comments yesterday, that once the state hits 70%, that we're going to start to see a reduction or a loosening of mitigation guidance and restrictions across the board, provided that throughout the summer months, the numbers of COVID-19 remain low. I also think that in September, we will still have health safety mitigation in place, but certainly I don't think it will be at the level that it is now. So people have asked me, Joe, do you think we'll have to wear masks in school in September? I don't think we will, but that's not the guidance right now. I don't know. But based on what I'm seeing and the trends that I'm seeing, that's what I think. But today's conversation is specifically related to outdoor activities, Lisa, for the remainder of this academic year. Now, you might say, does that include graduation? Yes. Does it include sports? Yes. Does it include move-up ceremonies? Yes. Any type of outdoor activity is encompassed in this modification.
Thank you for that.
And the second question was, I forget.
The distance rule.
Right.
Distance.
Thank you. So physical distancing when possible, right? Physical distancing when possible. Now, when children are out in the playground and they're playing with each other, we don't expect them to be 3 to 6 feet away from each other when they're playing in the playground. Some do, and some children, kind of are doing that. The physical distancing aspects are within the building, but when they're outside playing and running around, again, that's not sustained contact. The most important thing our children can do after they're done coming in from outside is wash their hands. The most important thing our children can do is wash their hands. So we're going to keep doing, we still have the hand sanitizer and keep doing that, because really it's not the airborne, it's the I'm gonna now go inside and put my fingers in my mouth type of a scenario, or in my eye, or that kind of a thing. So we're still going to have that in place in terms of keeping sanitation of the hands. I get it?
Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. More questions? Laura, you did have one, right?
Yes, thank you. It's not a question as much as just logistically, how do we manage this on the elementary level? Similar to what Kara had mentioned, certainly having extra masks on hand because children are gonna rip them as they take them off or lose them. And another worry of mine personally is picking up the wrong mask after recess because I threw mine on the table and so did someone else, and perhaps having a switch after. So those are just things that, how do we on the elementary level kind of
You tell me, how would you navigate those two things that you brought up?
I'm not sure. That's why I'm bringing it to the group.
Okay, so if I'm a principal, what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out in my classes, I'm going to talk to my teachers, find out who's allowed to wear masks, who's not allowed to wear masks, right? Before they go to recess, I'm going to remind the children to take their masks, put them in their lunch boxes, take their masks, put them in their pockets, whatever the case may be. If I find masks on the ground, I'm going to pick them up. If they have a name on them, I'm going to return to the kid with the name on them. If they don't have a name on them, I'm going to throw them in the garbage. Tell me.
Okay. Just sharing a worry. It wasn't
Don't worry.
looking for an answer
not a worry.
in particular,
It's not a worry.
but it's something that was going on in my mind, just as I see them manage the masks every day as it is.
It's not a worry, right? It's going to happen. We're going to have additional masks there if we need to hand them out to kids. But in terms of that nitty gritty type of thing, I think we'll be able to work through it in the next 14 days.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Adele.
Joe, and Rob has his hands up also. As the person who represents the teaching assistants who will be outside with the students, and to speak to Laura and Kara's point, yes, they will lose their mask. Yes, they will get dirty. And yes, there will be cross-contamination because at that little age, they can't wait to touch each other. And we get it, right? They're playing, it's innocent. I would ask that if possible, all buildings have set up right outside where the teachers will be picking up the students, clean masks, new masks for them, because it is impossible to manage as a teaching assistant if you have 100 students outside and there's 3 or 4 of you, where they put their masks. That's an impossible ask. So a possible ask is for us to have extra masks set up where they're coming back in.
Yeah, sure. Box of disposable, Lola's wearing one right now, box of the disposable masks if we need to. Listen, we all know, and Laura's absolutely right, we all know when you come inside from recess during the fall, you're leaving $150 jackets out in the playground, right? That's what kids do. Is it gonna happen with masks? Absolutely will happen with masks. Unfortunately, we can't replace the $150 jacket, but we certainly can give them a paper mask to be able to wear for the remainder of the day.
And we have plenty of them, so I will make sure that I disperse them to all of the schools, especially the elementary schools.
Perfect. Thanks, Maggie. Adele, all good? Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Janowitz.
Good morning, everybody. Couple questions. One, does this change also adhere to staff? What does this mean for staff that's outside? That's one question. And the other question I have, what does it mean for parents that are coming for pickup, coming for arrival and dismissal and events? Just wanted to be clear. I just want to be clear so I could be clear in my communication.
Great question. This is everybody. It's a universal modification to the mask requirement, and any type of outdoor, it's off. Questions in the chat: would parents wear them out at activities? They don't have to. It's the same thing. It's all humans. Great question. Lola.
What about, like, I know at the high school, they're like allowing students to go outside during classes, like in their class, like we can go out to the tents with our teachers. Would that mean when we're sitting underneath the tents, even if we're sitting right next to each other without a barrier, we would be maskless? All
right, so we shouldn't be sitting right. We should be at least 3 feet away if we can. with masks on, but yes, you would be able to remove your masks outdoors. So you're going outside, you're going to have a beautiful, you're trying to beat the heat a little bit and get outside underneath one of the tents, you can take your masks off. Anytime you're outside on school property, you can, let me say this, masks would be strongly encouraged, but not mandatory. Adults, kids, any events. Great question. I'm glad we're going through all this. Anybody else? Whole time? Whole time? Whole time? Oh, Mr. Bradshaw.
Good morning, Dr. Rick. I just have a recommendation. Not really a question. Being that we're really just a little more than 2 weeks, is it possible that we just continue as is for the remainder of this school year, not to disrupt anything? Because we already have the protocols that are in place that we're currently enforcing. This will provide this is a shift if we do go into it. And I do think, at least in the beginning stages, could disrupt some things in various locations. So just my recommendation with just 2 weeks, a little bit more than 2 weeks, that we just continue business as it's been going into the summer.
Yeah, thank you for your recommendation. We absolutely could. We could not follow the New York State Department of Health guidelines and decide that we are going to we're going to supersede the requirements and force everyone to continue to wear masks outside. That is, unfortunately, the responsibility, well, not unfortunately, but maybe unfortunately, the responsibility of this committee. The governor's requirements for stakeholder committee and stakeholder input is very clear, and that's the purpose of this morning's meeting. So, depending upon your feeling, you're thinking, hey, let's just keep things status quo, not upset the apple cart. Totally understand that. My recommendation, though, is and has always been that we follow the advice of doctors and not how I feel. I'm a history teacher, I'm not a doctor. New York State Department of Health and the CDC tell me that something's okay. I'm going to follow their guidelines, just like I'm going to follow my own doctor's guidelines, when they give me advice. A great question or recommendation. Hi, Lise.
I am sorry. I just have one more thing to point out to the group based on what you said. I don't have an 8th grader or a graduating student, but I know that I've seen Mr. Spatafore's put out requirements where for graduation, folks have to either show vaccine, I think, or maybe they've gotten tested. Is any of that change with this mask requirement, or those protocols would still be in place? Because now you potentially have a lot of people in one group next to one another. I just want to just clarifying whether the mask impacts those rules.
No, the only modification to the New York State Department, thank you for your question, the New York State Department of Health guidance is the mandatory wearing of masks outdoors on school grounds. So all of the other protocols, all the other health safety protocols in force and effect for commencement, moving up, all that stuff remains the same, except now, if you so choose, you don't need to wear a mask, though it's strongly encouraged.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Mrs. Marino, good morning.
Good morning. It's not really a question. I just want to thank you very much. I think you've made it very clear that we should follow the medical guideline and the state's recommendation. I know a lot of people have very strong feelings in either direction, and I know it is a significant adjustment for the administrative staff at all those schools. But I appreciate your clarification that we should stick with the facts and the recommendations, because I think that can help inform our decision-making process.
Thanks, Ms. Marino.
And I just wanted to point out that even though we're going to have the choice of wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, all of the chairs are still going to be distanced on graduation. So if you're uncomfortable that people are not wearing masks, once you're seated, you're going to be 6 feet away from the other people. So we are going to continue with the distance. We're going to continue with making sure that people are vaccinated or that they have had a COVID test. So all of the other safety things are going to remain in place. And I think that we're going to have a very safe graduation and moving up ceremony, regardless of if you choose to wear a mask or not.
Thank you, Maggie. Appreciate it, Nurse Maggie. That's a really important point for all the folks watching at home. All of the other health safety standards and measures remain in force and effect. The only thing we're talking about, the only modification from the New York State Department of Health is mask wearing outdoors, strongly encouraged, but not mandatory any longer. Any other questions? All right, poll time. So just a reminder again, consensus poll, anonymous. If you do choose, I can support, but I have questions, or I cannot support, please be prepared to share your thoughts. I recognize that we might not have 100% consensus on here today, and that's okay. But this is the responsibility of this committee to review all potential modifications to the White Plains City School District's reopening plan. And I really have to say, I really do appreciate all of you being here, your input, your questions, and it's been a long road. So thank you for that. Here comes your poll. Whoops, wrong poll. Oh my goodness, where's my other poll? I gotta end this poll, sorry. Here comes the correct poll. There we go. "27 out of 30, 29 out of 30, 30 out of 30 we have. And I'm going to share this with everybody right now. Here's what we have. We have 19 or 63% can fully support, 10 or 33%. So you're looking at 96% supporting the modification. 1 or 3% cannot support the modification. I would welcome the member of the committee who cannot support the modification to please say their piece for the record. If you really don't want to, you don't have to, but that's part of the process.
That was me. That was me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. The only reason I say that is because what the former gentleman said earlier, we have 2 weeks of school left. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me to make the modification at this time. And I think that when September comes around, I'm hoping the numbers aren't going to come back up. I think once we come back into a winter environment, maybe that's going to change. I just think it's more prudent to be safe, but that's my opinion, and gotta do what the committee says.
And let me just say this, Lisa, it's a great opinion. And if you asked me, does it make sense to make any modifications to the New York State Department of Health's guidelines today on the 8th of June? My answer is no. But they did. So I totally appreciate what you're saying, and I've been very clear in my stance on that. I think that folks have worked very, very hard all throughout the state of New York, particularly in the White Plains City School District. Could we have managed for the next 14, 15 days without any changes? I think yes. Could July 1 have been a great day to start for a new modification to reopening plans? I think yes. That just didn't happen though. So we find ourselves where we are today. Okay. Any final questions? Hi, Cheryl.
Not a question. I just share Lisa's frustration, and I know your frustration, from a district perspective, that, the chaos over the weekend and the confusion. We appreciate your leadership, and, we appreciate that, yes, the state guidelines have changed, and we have been, very careful to follow the science and the medical recommendations and the state health guidance. So while, yes, it doesn't really make sense to be, that the state went ahead and did this, that I appreciate that, this school district has really been very careful in the protocols we've been using.
Well, thank you very, very much, Cheryl. And again, I just want to thank all of you. We would not be where we are right now had it not been for all of the differing opinions, the conversation, and also the ability to work together and really navigate some difficult things. Look, we all have personal feelings about all kinds of different things, and to be able to work through those to come to consensus for the good of thousands is a big deal. So thanks, Cheryl. Appreciate it. Daisy, hi. Question.
When should we expect to roll this out in our buildings?
Yeah, so here's what I'm thinking, and if anybody really disagrees with this, let me know, because I'm open. I'm thinking we notify the community today, and it goes into effect on Thursday. I'm thinking we notify everyone today, and it goes into effect on Thursday, the 10th of June. Gives folks a minute, people who miss their emails, who hang up on my K-12 calls, you know, all that kind of stuff, just to kind of navigate and get ready. Also gives us the opportunity to get masks over to all the buildings and, you know, answer any questions in terms of logistics and that kind of thing, and help our teammates out. So I'm thinking for a start on the 10th. Cool.
Thank you.
Nod your head if you're okay with that. All right, I'm gonna go with consensus on that. Thank you. Lola.
I was just gonna say, like, I get like it's kind of weird to start it when we only have what, like 10, 11 days, but also these 10, 11 days are probably going to be the hottest days this year, this school year. So maybe it's better that we are going to be outside without our masks on so that we can have a minute to breathe and not overheat.
Yeah, thanks, Lola, particularly with athletics, right? Yeah, and phys ed. Friends.
I just wanted to agree with Lola. Thank you for bringing that up. You know, when people wear masks outside and it's hot and they're doing sports, you know, it's really hard to hydrate. You become tachycardic. Your heart works harder. So I think that giving the opportunity for people not to have masks outside, and some people do better with masks and some people don't. And I think with the heat, it's going to be a great thing for people not to have to wear masks outside if they don't have to.
Absolutely. And the good news, thanks again to this committee, which also doubled as our ARP CARES Act committee. We are moving forward with the recommendation to the Board of Education to upgrade all of the HVAC all throughout the school district. So that means eventually every single facility will have air conditioning as well. And that is huge. Lola, I'm sorry, kiddo, it's not for today, but it is coming. And I also know Lisa Bonelli, who has been a tremendous advocate for air conditioning all throughout the district, has got to be thrilled, as well as Jessica Buck and Gina Norfleet. So thank you, everybody, for that. Anything else? I am greatly appreciative, everyone. Thank you so much. We will get this message out to our community today, and I will see you later.
Thank you.
Gina, Jessica, and Ann, right?
Yes, we're here. I'm here.
Great.